I know I'm a bit late to the party on this one, at least when it comes to actually editing footage together for this, because I've been wanting to make video on this beta for, I don't know, since it actually released, but I've been too busy playing it, you know? I haven't been able to pull myself away from Monster Hunter Wilds to save my life, really. Like, this game. Okay, so when people talk about like the greats, the classical greats, the Halos before Reach and Reach, of course, classic Modern Warfares, Gears of War stuff, like we talk about greats in many different categories, right? Monster Hunter's been doing great for a while now. This is no secret. It's like Capcom's most massive game, right? But this one, right here, okay, this one is going to be something different, okay? It's going to be the bee's knees, people, alright? This game is going to do better than World, I think, and World is, like, Capcom's biggest game, I'm pretty sure. Which is crazy to think because going back to the greats like Resident Evil 4, my god, people, like, I fucking love that game, you know? But Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be in a different category all on its own, like, it is going to be something very, very special. Something people talk about for decades, even, I imagine. The Monster Hunter community still talks about the oldest entries in the games, because a lot of people started with them, but because they also were the solid foundation that we are at now, finally reaching like refined processes of the game and whatnot. Like, this is going to be one of the better ones, one of the best ones. I'm a World fanboy. All right, I'll say it. I started on Monster Hunter World. I have a little over, is it like 400 something hours in it? Not as much as many other people have, but enough to say that I goddamn love the game. It's like a passion of mine. It's the combat that really sold me on it. But it's not just the combat, it's that living, breathing world that they're really nailing down. And they did it great in World, but Wilds is on a whole nother level, okay, folks? They've just amped it up to 11. Now, you've been seeing my first hunt in the game, the Chatacabra one. I'll be the first to say it. He's not anything difficult, of course. He's meant to be literally the tutorial guy. He's gonna smack you around, he's gonna do these things, but what he has like personality. He has this in spades. He's really cool. I mean, doesn't want to beat up a frog? You know what I mean? Frogs, they have it coming sometimes, okay? This one especially. No, but seriously though, none of these monsters in the beta are returning monsters. They're all new, right? It's only four of them, but it's a solid four, I think. And sure, they're all going to be starting monsters. I mean, it's the first region, right? But they all kind of showcase different stuff. Like each one of them are showcasing not only the new wound mechanics and stuff, but also what some of these monsters are capable of. Like, Chotacabra is just like a guy, just a frog. He likes to lick stuff, you know? He's kind of the most standard, I would say, of the monsters. But once you start getting into, I think they pronounced it Doshagama in the beta, he's an easy one for like showing you how the pack system works. And I think he gets angry quite a bit. So it's a good way to show you, like, yeah, this is what it's like when a monster is pissed off, right? But he, I don't know, he also kind of just is a monster as well. There's not a whole lot completely special about him from what I've got just by fighting him a few times. It's really the pack stuff, and it's really easy to piss him off, and he's got tons of places for wounds, right? That's all fine and dandy, but a lot of the monsters have a lot of these things too, hence like a lot of places for wounds, for example. But we take a look at Balahara, old wormy boy over here. He's kind of like Diablos in the fact that like he likes to go underground. You gotta use screamers, the screamer pods on him. And let me tell you something. how we get screamer pods, for example, is really cool. Just how we interact with the world in general is really cool. We don't just use the clutch claw and everything on the monsters. We don't just do everything in world, you know? It's like not all the same stuff. It's genuinely a different process nowadays, with like the slinger being more of a retrieval tool and a traversal tool at times, rather than just like you have to use clutch claw to get damage on this thing or else you're going to be here for a year, you know? Stuff like screamer pods come from animals within the environments is I guess what I'm trying to get at here, and it's like we're actually using, you know, nature itself to combat nature, you know? We're kind of becoming one with the cycle of nature in this game, it feels like. I mean, hunters themselves are already a part of it. We kind of keep things in check from what I understand, but like we're actually able to get like say slinger ammo from like these little alligator looking dudes, and it's just like, you know, you're pulling a tooth out and it's just like this bleeding pod or something, you know? It's little stuff like that that is really neat to me. Like the screamer pods come from I don't know how to pronounce them. It's like these little pterodactyl guys. I don't know what we pull off of them, but that's how we get Balaharas out of the ground. Even though you don't see me do it ever, I just have bad timings with it, or I don't have the pods usually. It is very effective, of course. It is like the way. I mean, that's why the tutorial shows you how to do it and where to get them and all that, you know? There's a reason for it all, is because they want you interacting with these new systems and such. Going back to the whole talking about environmental stuff in this game, it's a desert, the starting area, but, you know, okay. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't really care for deserts. Not a lot of glitz and glam. It's not very pretty to look at, but that's normal desert, all right? There's this little system in here called inclemency periods and stuff, you know? Like, that is whenever the weather changes drastically and stuff actually, you know, is affected by it. Like there are small animals in the regions where like I think the females are the ones that are laying there, and then the males have these huge spikes on their backs to tank the lightning that's starting to happen. And I mean, of course, Ol Raydal comes into play during this time, of course. I mean, you can see it in the background, it's Inquisi, but it's a little harder to see because, you know, dual blades flying everywhere and such. But it's probably the coolest part of this area, right? And all of the areas are going to have something like this, you know? So it makes me really excited to see all the other areas and what actually happens to the zones when inclemency hits, you know? Like, it's a big deal in each of the regions for that to happen, you know? So it's probably going to be like a lot of people are just going to be, you know, farming it. It's going to be prime time farming zones. Like, the big stuff like the apex predators of the regions come out during inclemencies and stuff. It's really, really interesting how they are doing this. Like, the devs nailed the whole, like, living world thing, you know? Like, they had it in world, but this game just does it so much better, in my opinion. They really nailed down, like, it's an ecosystem, you know? Stuff is happening even when we're not taking part in it. You're in camp, you know, and turf wars are happening. You're just hanging out, and a different abundances of outbreaks are happening and stuff, and it's just like, wow, you know, the entire game is alive and breathing without me having to do anything at all. I'm really stoked to see all of the new regions and stuff, you know, because if this is the first zone, which it is, it kind of shows you that they got a little bit more in store for us, of course. A little bit more oomph behind the next zones, I imagine, too. This is like just kind of showing us what it's going to be like, I suppose. You know, it's not, you know, something that's just like, oh, it's like this everywhere. I think all the regions are going to be handled differently during inclemency and such, you know. Well, I mean, I guess I've done enough splooging about environmental stuff and certain monsters. I guess I can talk about the weapons a little bit. Now, I tried almost everything. I didn't try the normal lance and the light and heavy bowgun, and I didn't get around to the insect glaive. So, 4 out of the what, like 17? That's pretty decent, alright? I've been a longsword main for, I don't know, it's It's been a while now since I found it in World, but before that, it was stuff like Charge Blade, Hammer. I was using other stuff other than this. The story goes like Longsword, I didn't think I was good enough at first to try it, and a lot of people be like, oh, you don't have to be good to play it. Okay, I get it. Some people really hate the weapon. Who cares? But once I learned the game a bit more with Charge Blade and, so on, it was mainly Charge Blade, but, you know, Hammer was a little bit before that. Once I learned a bit more, I decided to pick the weapon back up, and, I couldn't really drop it much. Now, my muscle memory from World has transferred over, like many people's probably has, and I can say that the weapon does feel similar, but it's not the same exact thing. A lot of things flow into one another. We have a few new moves that, help us get gauge quicker and stuff. You can cancel out of certain attacks that you used to not be able to cancel out of into the Foresight Slash, so we can basically dodge during attacks now. Like, the longsword is insane. Insanely well done as well, and it feels amazing. The Charge Blade? My god. Just my god, okay? That thing fucking rocks, okay, people? Same with the dual blades, alright? This is, like, in my opinion, not really a bad weapon in Monster Hunter. They're all good. It just depends on what your preferences are and such. But in here, they've genuinely done very well handling the weapons, their new moves, and, like, what flows into what. I mean, sure, people are probably mad about Insect Glaive losing some airborne identity. Maybe it'll get a new one. It doesn't have to have the same thing all the time, I suppose, but what do I know? I'm not really a veteran Monster Hunter, so my opinion means probably very little. But, it's out there, I guess, now. Um, well, what else? Gunlance surprised the hell out of me. I'm not really a lance kind of guy. I hate shields in games. I don't block, I dodge. Which is kind of funny why I used a charge blade for as long as I did, but the gun lance, man. That thing goes unbelievably hard. It is so goddamn fun. You just like, I feel like for me, I have to be in the mood to use it. But dear God, when you use it and you do well with it, it is just fucking chef's kiss, man. My God. Same with the greatsword. But I'm kind of getting the feeling that once you get good with any of the weapons, of course it's gonna feel good. Like the combat in this game is so solid that, you learn the weapon, you're on the way to mastering it, yeah, it's gonna feel good. So, I don't know, everybody's gonna have their own opinions on weapons and such, but honestly, these are some of the best the weapons have felt to me personally, and I've only done World and Rise so far. Not even a lot of Rise, but more World, of course. And the stuff feels solid. It doesn't feel like the same weapons I've been using. It feels like a refined version or an updated version. It feels like they're finally hitting the stride in what they want the weapons to start feeling like. But I don't know. It's hard to tell from just a goddamn beta, to be fair. You know, so limited time to really figure things out. Of course, I'm not really gonna have fully baked, like, full on thoughts and ideas on this kind of stuff, so bear with me, of course. With it being, a beta test and all, it is all just first impressions and kind of just seeing how we all feel about things without really showing us everything, of course. I mean, I legit think the weapons are going to be, the same, of course, in terms of moves and stuff, but, like, we can't even craft, alright, in the beta test. So, like, these weapons are probably the most starter weapons that starter weapons can be, alright? And it's not really the damage or anything I'm really thinking about here. It's the move sets and stuff that are always going to be, the same in the game for each weapon. Like, one longsword is going to have the same as the other longswords, for example. But it's the damage and the stats and all that matter the most when we're playing the full game. Like, everybody here can just be beat with physical damage, of course. What is Raydal weak to? I don't know. It's not Pokemon. It's probably not water. And if it is, I would be surprised a little bit. But they have these, like, grounding stones in his lair that get rid of the lightning, the AoE lightning effects and such. So, I don't know. There's got to be something, right, is what I'm getting at. we don't have access to build crafting nearly as much. Like the armor in the beta test, they do have little perks on them and such, but depending on how you play, there's like one or two clear winners in terms of the armor sets, and the rest of them you probably wouldn't even touch, you know? Point being, though, is just like, we're all working with the bare minimum of the bare minimums here, alright? And it's such a solid foundation that they're showing us here that, like, I cannot even imagine the stuff we're gonna get. Like, imagine Fatalis in here. If he comes back, which, I hope he kind of doesn't, but if he does, like, give us, like, the old ones, like the White Fatalis and stuff like that. I don't want to just fight the one from World again, okay? I'll say that. But if we get something crazy like that, it's gonna be cool. For the most part, though, yeah, I want, like, new monsters, new crazy shit. Like, the new stuff that they've shown us is already looking crazy promising. So when we actually get to experience it with full-on builds and everything, yeah, it's gonna feel, I think, a little bit great. Okay, I'll just say it. But I don't know. Going back to like some mechanics and stuff, the wound system, man, I like this a lot more than the clutch claw. Now, I'm by no means a hater of the clutch claw. It's just like now that I've seen the wound system and whatnot, starting to see like how much more natural this feels. The clutch claw is so just tedious to get off a lot of the time, right? I mean, we needed certain mantles to guarantee getting clutch claw tenderizes and stuff. The wound system is so much more intuitive and natural to Monster Hunter. It feels like it should have just been a thing a long time ago, sure, but man, it's like because it's beta, right? There are two ways to interact with the wounds. Either just hitting them, and it's kind of like getting the tenderized damage. I'm pretty sure they're like almost all crits or something. They have the little like corners on them. But you can either, hit it a whole bunch to eventually seal it, or you can use this new thing called a focus strike to just instantly seal it for X amount of damage and possibly knock the guy over. For the most part, there is no like right answer in any scenario other than like Ray Dow here. I don't instantly pop wounds unless they're on the legs, for example. It kind of just feels like that's one reliable way to trip them up, right? But another good way would probably just being able to hit the things, milk out the wounds a bit. I know, weird phrasing, okay? And do a lot more damage overall in the length of the fight that you have. Like, Ray Down can go for a minute with the tools we have right now. But knowing when to, like, full on close the wound, bleed the wound out by hitting it a bunch, like, that's not something I can tell you because I played just the beta, okay? This is not something you get a hold of fully in beta time unless you're literally only playing this, I imagine. That's one of those things that will come with time. It'll become very apparent to us, like once we have the full game. X monsters, you want to instantly close wounds, and the big tough guys, you probably want to let it bleed out a bit and hit it over and over again so you get the extra damage and possible part breaks and so on. It's just such an interesting system. It's a lot better than just latching onto a monster and hitting the attack button to tenderize the damn thing and maybe getting back on there to, like, I don't know, flinch shot him. Like, I'm not going to miss any of that stuff. It's cool. But, like I said earlier, I've been doing that stuff in World for quite a while. Same monsters and all that noise. While I love playing the game and fighting this stuff, yeah, once you have solved a puzzle, it's not nearly going to be as difficult. And you may not enjoy said puzzle as much, you know what I mean? But it's more like the journey rather than destination with these kind of games to me. Like, with the combat being as good as it is, every fight to me is just learning the blade more or learning any other weapon I'm trying to learn more and trying to refine processes to, like, be better overall with my weapon and do better in the game, and pull off cool stuff. But some people may not do it like that. They may just want to fight new monsters. They may just want to do co-op with their buddies. I don't know. There could be some weird freaks that want PvP in this game for all I know, Like,
You do you, is what I'm getting at, you know?
So by the time you see this, the beta will be over, but in my time playing this game and the little bit that I had watched beforehand, trying not to spoiler myself and everything, it makes me realize just how great this game is going to be. It's going to be something special. One of the greats, you know. People are going to be talking about it for decades plus, I imagine, you know, and whatever else they build off of here should be crazy. Like, seeing this now makes me excited for what is to come in the future. I can't really wait until February hits. You know, this is one of those things that I'm going to be playing, going to be covering a lot of. This and eventually Ghost of Yotei. Those are like my two picks right now. God, I cannot wait for them. Well, I guess I've done enough gushing about this game. I hope to see you on the full release of Wilds. It should be fun.